What's going on, everybody? It is your boy Zamboni. I'm a musician and astrologer, and it is time to talk about the astrology of the week ahead. As always, I thank you so very much for being here with me. Thank you for rocking with me time after time, week after week, day after day. I've been doing these forecasts for a little while now, and y'all been rocking with me for a good long time. Thank you so much for being here with me. If you want to get a reading for yourself, you can go to zambonifong.com. You can get a 10-minute reading like this where I'll talk to the camera. You can get a 60-minute reading where I'll talk to you and we can have a conversation about what's going on in your life and the context of this moment. We can, if you are interested in Superfly merch and artwork, you can check that out. Also, zambonifong.com/store. You can get hoodies or bags or all types of stuff. This is the cover to the music. And of course, you can go to Spotify, Tidal, Pandora, Apple Music, YouTube, wherever you like to get your music at and listen to the music. I always appreciate when y'all do that. I super appreciate when you send me some feedback and let me know how the music made you feel. Thank y'all for being here. Let's talk about the astrology of the week ahead. So this week, we have a little bit of ruckus going on. We got some chaos and disruption that looks like it wants to take place. First, we've got the Mercury cazimi. So Mercury is currently retrograde. Mercury is moving backwards in the order of signs. And so this week is going to move from Capricorn into Sagittarius. So Capricorn usually comes after Sagittarius, but and so we already saw Mercury moving out of Sagittarius into Capricorn. Then Mercury slowed down, stopped. Now it's moving backwards, going to move back into Sagittarius. Before we get that, at 0 degrees of Capricorn, the sun is going to move into Capricorn. So at the same time as the winter solstice, we're also going to see Mercury cazimi. Cazimi means in the heart of the sun. So so Mercury is going to make a conjunction with the sun, moving backwards, right? So this is, whenever we think about Mercury retrograde, then it's often a time for miscommunications, delays, misunderstandings, that sort of stuff. Generally, there's some kind of like trying to get a deeper understanding, trying to understand what's going on, because there have been those mistakes or errors, or it's like something didn't go the direction that you thought it was going to go. And so it's like, okay, well, how do we deal with this? How do we navigate this? What is actually happening here? Why did this happen? This sort of stuff, right? So as Mercury moves into the heart of the sun, so a cazimi moment that usually is going to be some kind of like special message from the king. We're going to get some kind of clarity, some kind of, a planet who is under the beams of the sun. So we can't see Mercury in the sky right now because it is too close to the sun. If you look at the sun, or if you look at the spot in the sky where Mercury is in the sky, then all you'll see is sunbeams, right? It's too bright, can't see that. So often, if we're thinking of astrology as being like dealing with the like apparent nature of what things are, like how things actually appear, then we can't see Mercury. And so there's a kind of like difficulty in Mercury doing the Mercury things. Mercury's job is to communicate or to transport things, or all of the trans stuff, like from here to there, movement and understanding translation and all this sort of stuff, right? That's Mercury's domain. So while Mercury is under the beams of the sun, then there's some trouble doing the Mercury things. Mercury is also retrograded, so maybe flipping the Mercury things on its head. Then as Mercury moves into the heart of the sun, then there's a moment of clarity. There's a moment of like, oh, maybe this is what's going on, right? This is the middle of the retrograde. And so at this point, it's like, oh, this is the deepest point where the most confusion could be at, or something like this. But it's also a moment where you might start to get some ideas about how to move forward out of the chaos that has come into the situation. Now, the thing about that is, while I typically like to see a Mercury cazimi, a Mercury retrograde cazimi, even, like, I like this moment because it typically sort of describes a way out. It's the analogy that one of my teachers uses is being in the middle of the forest, like you're wandering in the forest, you're lost, and then you get to a point where you're in the middle, and so any direction leads out at this point. And so I typically like the retrograde cazimi for that. The thing about this is that Mercury is going to then move back into Sagittarius. Mars is there in Sagittarius. Neptune is in Pisces, going to be square to that Mercury. And so Mercury, Mars together, Mercury's job is to communicate, to give you the words and this kind of thing. Mars's job is to be active or aggressive, or there's conflict or fighting, or the god of war here, right? And so Mercury and Mars together, them's fighting words, this kind of thing, right? Like arguments and especially with that square to Neptune. Also, Neptune's job is to confuse or to dissolve boundaries or this kind of thing, right? And so for a while Mercury was in Sagittarius square to Neptune, I was talking a lot about like propaganda or being misled or deceived in some way. And so we add Mars into that mix, and it's like being misled. It's like military propaganda. It's being misled or deceived in some kind of way that could be harmful, or that could that could be a tactic of war, or trying to best the other one. Mercury and Mars actually really agree on competition, and Mercury is associated in the Hellenistic text with wrestling, which seems like a hot, sweaty dude affair, right? Like seems like real Marsy. But then also Mercury is very much about argumentation and sort of like debating and trying to get better or more, one up the other guy, right? And so seeing those things together along with that Neptune looks wildly confusing. It looks like you sort of get this moment of clarity, and it's almost like, like the more you know, the less you know, right? Or the more you learn, the less you know, right? Like it's this sense of like, you get this moment of clarity, and then you're like, oh, what I really know now is that I have no idea what is going on and I don't necessarily know how to do that, anything, or how to like make this better. But I also feel the pressure. I feel the heat, the passion of that Mars is like, yo, we got to do something right now, where it's time to shoot, and maybe not knowing what to shoot at or what is the right move, or I would definitely expect some like, it looks like a time for bad information. The information does not look good. It looks like a really good time to argue with your friends about the nature of whatever is happening. If you've got differing opinions on wars or differing opinions on politics or whatever else, it looks like a really good time to deeply entrench in what you think you know, and also be wrong about that shit. A little bit of humility might go a pretty long way this week. This is compounded by the fact that this week we've got Venus in Scorpio making an opposition to Uranus in Taurus. Now, Venus does rule that Uranus in Taurus, so this is with reception. That looks better than a situation where we don't have that kind of reception. But Venus opposite Uranus, Uranus's job is to generate surprises, unexpected things. Uranus is very big on breakups, breakdowns, breakthroughs, rupture. There's usually some kind of like break. Uranus tends to like liberation, tends to like moving away, like anywhere but here is kind of a vibe with Uranus a lot of times, right? And so Venus opposite to that, Venus is in Scorpio, and Scorpio is ruled by Mars. And so Venus is like kind of uncomfortable in Scorpio to begin with. And it's, so like the Venus things, Venus is like harmony or togetherness or cooperation or arts and creativity or things that feel good, taste good, smell good, all of that sort of stuff. Things that are like delicious and pleasurable from a sensory perspective. Opposite to Uranus. So opposite to Uranus and Taurus, maybe this is a really innovative recipe, right? Like I hear that chocolate chip cookies were invented under Uranus and Taurus and this kind of thing, right? So like this idea of like something that is extra delicious that no one's ever seen before. This is possible, right? Really like this idea, especially if you're involved in some kind of creative project. You're doing music like I do. Go to Spotify, Tidal, Pandora, Apple Music, go check out the music. Please go do that. Maybe you are a painter or a speaker or whatever your craft is, right? Maybe this is an innovative idea for that. But also we got to remember that the information sucks right now, that there's a lot of like it's a really good time to be in your feelings about some shit. Venus in Scorpio is very good at being in your feelings. There might be a feeling of like looking for vengeance, or, you know, like Scorpio planets have a long memory. They remember that shit that happened a long time ago, and I'm still mad about it. And so there's a sense of like maybe looking for retribution or something like that, but then also shooting in the wrong direction, aiming at a target that might not be the real target. Be careful, be humble. Maybe this is a good time to bake some cookies or something and maybe not start a fight. That's all my time.